it's LDake again with Kale Realty, your Illinois licensed broker. And that's great that you got your application approved. But like they say, it ain't over till it's over. So when you get your application approved, you got to jump, man. And I mean jump, especially in this market right now. Here are 4 examples of how someone who was approved didn't get the place. Stick around and find out how you can prevent that from happening to you. Okay, and we're back. So, little bit of housekeeping. When you get approved, I am happy for you. But here are 4 ways that someone who was approved, they didn't get the place. So, here's the first one. The applicant was approved for a lease. They got their email that says congratulations and everything. This is what I send out to folks. Now, they wanted to hedge their bets and continue to look for something a little bit better that met their needs. I totally get that. So they didn't sign the lease right away. When I sent it to them, they didn't send me the money and things like that. Instead, they thought that they'd sit on it over the weekend, give themselves another chance to go check out other things. Well, here's what happened. Someone else applied for that place that day. Now, I do let people know when there's an application out or when there's one approved, they wanted to apply anyway. Okay. So those people, I was able to verify everything on there quickly. And I sent that one over to the landlord to review. That's part of my job. I'm actually required to do that. And the landlord looked at that and says, well, what about the other application that you got in? I'm like, well, they haven't signed it. They said that they'd get back to me on Monday. Landlord's like, well, these people are fine. Let's take them. So I sent them an approval and a congratulation letter and everything like that, right? They signed their share of the lease. They paid the money. The landlord's like, great. So they went and got leased up. And then when the other people came back on Monday, I was like, I'm sorry, it's gone. Well, what do you mean it's gone? I was like, someone else applied and they were approved and they got leased up. Now this second one, man, I felt sorry for these folks. So they had a CHA voucher. That means Chicago Housing Authority. Which is a Section 8. Maybe you're familiar with that term. Now, with this process, once you're approved, then you go through the CHA process where they go through the inspection process and things like that. Sometimes the place fails inspection the first time. That gives the landlord an opportunity to fix it and things like that. Well, during this process, someone who didn't have the voucher, they were just going to pay rent the regular way. Well, they applied. No, and I do let people know that there's an approved application out there. They applied. They got approved. They were able to pay the first month's rent and the moving fee and the pet fee and things like that. Landlord signed their share and they got it. So unfortunately, I had to let the folks with the voucher know that someone else got the place. Now, this third situation, this is where 2 application packages are presented to the landlord at nearly the same time. And that's because just because someone applies earlier than the other one, it's got to go through the process. And sometimes I can verify someone quickly, sometimes I can't. Well, in this case, the verifications were practically done at the same time, so I presented them at the same time, one after the other. And the first one, they said that they'd be willing to do whatever it takes to get the place. And so the landlord said to me, well, how do I choose between the 2? And I said, well, these first people, they said whatever it takes. And so he's like, interesting. So yeah, they're obviously going to be the stronger applicant. So in fairness, I went back to the second applicant and I said, what else are you willing to put to the table? The first application's coming in hard. They really want the place. They didn't want to put more forth. So the first ones, they did what they had to do. Now, this fourth situation, this is where these folks, their application was phenomenal and they knew it and they wanted to negotiate on a few things. One negotiation was accepted. A second negotiation, okay, fine. Third negotiation comes in, the landlord's like, ugh, all right, we'll meet in the middle. That one wasn't good enough for these guys, so they walked. Now, keep in mind, that's not always the case. There are some landlords, when there's any negotiation, no, not acceptable. These are my terms and that's that. So a lot of times if someone puts on their application a negotiation, like they want to have a lower price or something, landlord's not going to even consider that. That's the rent is the rent is the rent. So when I send the congratulations letter, it always says per the terms of the lease, because that's what the landlord's agreeing to, is these terms, and here you go. So at that point, if there's any negotiation that happens after that, the landlord doesn't have to accept it. Especially, you don't know if the landlord's got their own guy or not, because half the time they don't tell me, and yeah. So negotiating, especially after you get an application approved, that can be risky. It really depends on how bad do you want the place. Okay, wow. So, I do these videos for you renters because I do want you to get the place. Like I said, if for any other reason, that's how I get paid, right? And I do remind folks that a lot of times I am representing the landlord, but it's like the lady at the bank that's helping you get a cashier's check. She represents the bank, but she's serving you. And that's how I feel that I'm trying to help the public. So I do present information like this that often isn't talked about, and I do hope it helps you out so that you are better prepared. Again, I'm LDake with Kale Realty. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. I'm here to help. And remember, I always have time for you and your referrals.